be careful here. I'll say a few things up front. I'm not a storyteller. I don't listen to podcasts. I've never written anything longer than a maintenance request. But I recently found out the Wayside changed hands again. Fourth owner since the place was built. And that made something tighten in my chest that I need to get rid of. So I'm going to describe what happened to me in the fall of 2019 when I worked the night audit at a motel outside Dresser, Nevada. And then I'm going to be done with it. Whether I'm actually done with it is a different question. I ended up in Dresser because my life had narrowed to a point. I'd been at a fulfillment center outside Columbus, a regional outfit that handled auto parts distribution. 9 months, predictable shifts, good enough money. Then the company lost its primary contract and laid off 40% of the warehouse staff in a single afternoon. They handed us checks with 2 weeks of severance and walked us to the parking lot like a contamination risk. 2 days later, my landlord informed me he was selling the duplex I rented the lower unit of. 60 days to vacate. $2,400 saved. No lease, no job. A 2004 Honda Accord with 163,000 miles that had started making a sound on hard acceleration I'd been successfully ignoring. A friend from a previous warehouse job had moved to Reno. He said he could get me on at a distribution center there within 2 weeks if I had steel-toed boots and a clean drug test. I loaded my car and drove west. Somewhere east of Fallon, on that long stretch of Route 50 that the tourism board calls the loneliest road in America, which is a description, not poetry, the transmission started slipping between second and third. Not catastrophically, just a shudder and a half-second delay on every shift. And I knew, from experience, this was the beginning of an expensive conversation with a mechanic. By the time I pulled off the highway toward a town my phone's map said was called Dresser, the car was barely holding third. Dresser exists because something needed to be there once, and then the reason left, but the buildings didn't. Gas station with a Subway counter inside, farm supply store, post office, a scatter of houses along irrigation roads running toward dry ranch land in every direction. A bar called the Pronghorn I never went inside, and the Wayside Motor Lodge, sitting on a gravel lot at the south end of town, facing the state road, with a tall sign from the early 80s, white plastic panels in a backlit aluminum box, half the tubes dead, vacancy in red, below it with the no slide rusted permanently to one side. I pulled in because I needed to stop and do math. Transmission work on an 04. Accord, 900 to 2,000. Cash on hand, 2,400. Distance to Reno, over 100 miles. I didn't have enough to fix the car and start over. I needed to work first. I went into the motel office to ask if they knew a mechanic. The woman behind the counter, Patrice, around 60, reading glasses on a beaded chain, doing a crossword next to a coffee mug that said, "World's Okayest Grandma," gave me a name and number in Fallon. Then, without my asking, she said the motel had been trying to fill its night audit position for almost a month, and if I needed work fast, the job was available. She said it the way you'd offer someone a glass of water. I filled out a 1-page application on the counter with a ballpoint pen chained to a clipboard. She photocopied my license on a small desktop copier, wrote a number on a yellow Post-it, and told me to come back at 10 that night. Owner's name is Dale. He probably won't be here, but he'll leave you a polo. 12 an hour, 3 nights to start. Probably 4 once he sees you're reliable. You can park around back by the dumpster if you need to sleep between shifts. She paused. The last guy didn't show up for his 3rd shift and didn't call, so don't do that. I came back at 10. The Wayside was an L-shaped building, single story, a stucco exterior painted a color that had probably been terracotta once and had since faded to a shade I'd call salmon if I were being generous. The west wing ran straight back from the office, 12 rooms facing the parking lot. The east wing branched off at a right angle, 10 more rooms facing a secondary lot, 22 rooms total, numbered 1 through 22. Standard configuration for a property built in the late 70s. Drive up, park in front of your door, exterior walkway with a concrete path and a metal railing and an overhang that provided about 40% of the rain protection it suggested. Patrice spent 45 minutes walking me through the operation. The computer system was a program called Innkeeper Pro, running on a desktop, at least 8 years old, what I'm fairly sure was Windows 7. Green and white cells, you drop down menus that lagged. She showed me check-ins. Pull up the grid, select a room, enter name and plate number, take payment, print a folio on the dot matrix printer, hand over the key. She showed me the cash drawer, mechanical, not electronic, mounted under the counter requiring a small upward lift to clear because it stuck when pulled straight. Count at start, write in spiral notebook. Count at end, write again. Discrepancy, tell the morning person. She showed me the key cabinet. Gray metal box on the wall behind the counter about 2 feet wide. Small brass hooks in rows, each labeled with masking tape and a room number. Physical keys on green diamond-shaped plastic fobs. Room number stamped in white. The cabinet had a small padlock. The key to the padlock hung on a finishing nail behind the monitor, where she showed me how to print the vacancy report. 1-page summary from Innkeeper Pro, listing each room as occupied, vacant, or out of order. Print this at the start of every shift. It's your snapshot. If anything doesn't match the key cabinet or the lot, figure out why. She showed me the shift binder. Blue 3-ring, shelf under the counter. Laminated procedure sheets, ice machine reset, water heater breaker location, emergency contacts, and months of handwritten shift notes on loose leaf pages. Shift-to-shift communication. Most entries in Patrice's small, forward-leaning cursive. She showed me the security monitors. 4 cameras on a 9-inch screen split into quadrants. Lobby, west wing walkway, east wing walkway, parking lot. Grainy, green-tinted with a 2-second lag. And the east wing camera had a blind spot where the walkway curved around the back of the L. Camera's been mounted wrong since install. Nobody's fixed it. She showed me the linen closet at the interior corner of the L. The laundry room behind it. 2 commercial washers, 1 functioning dryer, a folding table with a burn mark from an iron. Vending machines in an alcove near the ice machine on the west side. Maintenance closet near the office. Cleaning supplies, mop bucket, shop vac, hand dolly, heavy maglite flashlight. The ice machine itself, a Manitowoc that predated my birth, and made a low grinding sound every 40 minutes when it cycled. Then she gave me the routine. Between 10 and midnight, handle remaining check-ins, mostly walk-ins off Route 50. After midnight, property goes quiet. You run the night audit. 3 buttons on Innkeeper Pro, print summary, file in manila folder. 10 minutes. After that, remain at the desk, do exterior walkthroughs at 2 and 4, handoff at 6. Then she said 4 things I wrote down later. If a guest on the West Wing calls about noise, move them. Don't argue, don't investigate. Put them on the east side and zero out any rate difference. If the vacancy report shows a room that doesn't look right, reprint and use whichever copy makes sense. The software does things during the audit window. The phone system is ancient. You'll get calls from extensions that don't connect to anything. Just hang up. Don't send housekeeping carts to the east side storage area before sunup. The path isn't lit, and there's an unmarked drainage ditch. I nodded at each. Oh, they sounded like exactly what they appeared to be. Operational wisdom from someone who'd been running the front desk of a marginal roadside motel for years. I didn't question any of them. She left at 11. I was alone. The first 3 shifts were uneventful in the specific way that night audit shifts at low occupancy motels are. Long silence punctuated by the ice machine, the distant compression of a truck on the highway, the occasional creak of the building settling. I checked in a total of 4 guests across those 3 nights. I learned the audit rhythm. I learned that the Folgers in the cabinet above the mini fridge tasted increasingly like rust the longer the pot sat on the warmer, and that by 2 a.m., it bore only a conceptual relationship to coffee. I learned that the swivel chair had 1 drifting caster and made a sound like a stepped-on cat if you leaned back too far, which I discovered at 3 a.m. on my second shift with enough force to spike my heart rate. I read paperback westerns from a little free library outside the post office. I watched the monitors. I did my rounds with the mag light. Normal, all of it normal. On my 4th shift, I started noticing things. Not one thing, several. Small, unconnected, the kind of details you only register because the job consists of sitting in a quiet room for 8 hours, looking at systems designed to track a limited set of variables. I printed the vacancy report at the start of my shift. 22 rooms, some occupied, some vacant, 2 out of order. Rooms 17 and 21. Plumbing. Flagged since before I started. I scanned the list. Rooms 1 through 7, then room 9, then 10 through 22. No room 8. The list went 7-9, like a tooth missing from the middle of a row. Your eye skips over the gap unless you're counting. I counted 11 rooms listed for the West Wing, but the West Wing had 12 rooms, or it was supposed to. I made a note to check on my next walk around. Then I looked at the key cabinet, hooks for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then 9, 10, 11, 12. No hook for 8. But between 7 and 9, a discoloration on the metal backing, a rectangular shadow where adhesive had been, a tiny screw hole beneath it filled with a dab of paint that almost matched the gray of the cabinet. The phone base unit. 20 buttons labeled with extensions 101 through 122. Extension 108 had a small piece of beige tape over the button, nearly the same color as the housing. As I pressed it through the tape. Dead. No tone, no ring, nothing. The fire evacuation map on the wall. Laminated floor plan in a document frame. West Wing. 12 rectangles numbered 1 through 12. But the space between the rectangles for 7 and 9 was wider than the others by about a quarter inch. Consistent with something removed, and the labels shifted to close the gap, but not shifted quite enough. At 2 a.m., I walked the west wing exterior with the mag light, counting door numbers. Room 1, Room 2, Room 3, Room 4, Room 5, Room 6, Room 7, Room 9. Between Room 7 and Room 9, a stretch of blank wall. No door, no window. Stucco, the same faded color as the rest of the building, maybe 12 feet across, the width of a standard room. I shone the flashlight at a low angle. In the raking light, a faint rectangular area, about 3 feet wide and 7 feet tall, where the stucco texture was smoother and newer, a patch, and higher up a smaller patch the size and shape of a standard motel window. I pressed my hand against the larger patch, cool, solid. I knocked twice, lightly. The sound was dense, not hollow like drywall, but not quite solid stucco either, like knocking on a door that had been built over. I looked up at the roof line, counted the truss seams from room 1, 12 bays, 12 rooms worth of structure, 11 doors. Back inside, I wrote in the shift binder, noticed west wing goes from 7 to 9. No room 8 on the doors, key cabinet or vacancy report. Was 8 decommissioned at some point? Want to make sure I have the correct room count for the audit. M. At handoff, I mentioned it to Patrice. She was hanging her jacket, and she didn't turn around. Old rooms get combined or taken offline sometimes. Bookkeeping thing. Nothing you need for the audit. But the building still has the space. I could see the outline of the old door. Old building. She sat down and opened the computer. Anything else from the shift? Quiet night, I said. I went to my car to sleep. It was a dismissal. Polite, efficient. And the answer didn't match what I'd found. If a room is decommissioned, the physical space usually gets repurposed. You don't wall it off and leave it sitting inside the building like a sealed cavity. I let it go. For about 8 days. I picked up a 4th night. Dale left a note on my windshield saying I could use room 20 on the east wing to sleep during the days. I moved my pillow and bag in there and slept in a real bed for the first time in 2 weeks. And I had a routine. Print the report, count the drawer, check the keys, run the audit, walk the grounds, hand off. The job was simple and the money was accumulating toward my transmission repair, but room 8 kept surfacing. Not because I was looking for it, because the motel kept producing it. On my 7th shift, a Wednesday, 9 rooms occupied, including room 7. A trucker named Don who stayed about once a month on his regular route. Quiet guy, mid-40s, Peterbilt cap, soft cooler of sandwiches his wife made for the road. At 1:15 a.m., the phone rang. Don, room 7. Hey, I don't want to make a thing out of this, but is someone in the room next to me on the right side? Room 9 is vacant tonight. Okay, because I'm hearing something through the wall. On the right. The right wall of room 7 was the shared wall with the space where room 8 should be. What kind of sound? Like water maybe? A faucet running, real faint, and a tapping, rhythmic. It stopped for a while, but it just started again. I offered to move him. He said he'd try to sleep through it. At 1:55, he called back. I'm gonna need that move. It's not stopping. I know this sounds odd, but it sounds like someone's in there, shuffling, moving around. I put him in room 14. He walked across the lot in his socks, carrying his boots and his cooler. He didn't seem frightened. He seemed annoyed. I've stayed here a dozen times. Never heard anything like that. Might want to check the pipes. In the shift binder, I wrote, Guest in 7 reported persistent noise from wall adjacent to sealed room 8 area. Water sound and rhythmic tapping, escalating over 40 minutes. Move to 14, no charge. Recommend maintenance check of plumbing in that section. Patrice in the morning. I'll let Dale know. Pipes act up when it gets cold. It was September. Daytime temperatures were in the 80s, then the utility readings. I found the utility binder on a shelf under the counter, buried behind vendor catalogs and inspection notices. Photocopied invoices and meter logs, going back years. Each month, someone recorded water and electric readings for each wing. I pulled 3 months of occupancy data from Innkeeper Pro and cross-referenced. Every month, the West Wing's water usage exceeded what the occupied rooms could account for, an excess equivalent to 15 to 25 gallons per day. Enough for a running faucet, a cycling toilet, or a short shower once a day. I checked the East Wing as a control. Its numbers tracked closely with occupancy. The electric readings showed the same pattern, a small, consistent surplus from the West Wing, the equivalent of 1 room drawn baseline power around the clock, enough for a television and a light. I wrote in the binder, reviewed utility records for West Wing. Water and electric consistently higher than occupancy accounts for. May indicate leak or draw in decommissioned section between 7 and 9. Suggest maintenance check. M. Dale's response, next shift. Known issue, old infrastructure. Will address when budget allows. D. I started reading deeper into the shift binder. Not the recent notes, the old ones. Months and months of loose leaf pages in rotating handwriting. I went through them methodically, in the way you go through a ledger. From roughly 6 months before I started, in rounded, careful handwriting. Guest in 6 says she heard a TV through the wall toward the back of the wing. No guest in 7 or adjacent. Told her it might be signal bleed. She accepted. No move needed. From about 4 months prior, angular and compressed. Vacancy reports showed a discrepancy during audit. Room showed as occupied that shouldn't have been. Reprinted and discrepancy resolved. Noting for records. No room number specified. From 7 weeks before I started in blocky capitals, guest in 9 moved to 16 after complaint of knocking on shared wall. Did not investigate. Noted for Dale. This is the 3rd incident this quarter. Below it, in Patrice's hand, handled. Thanks. And in the margins of a laminated procedure sheet, in pencil, in tiny script that didn't match anyone else's handwriting in the binder. If 108 rings, do not pick up. If system shows 8, clear and reprint. Do not log. Do not tell Dale you saw it. He already knows. I read that 3 times. Whoever wrote it had worked the night desk. They'd written instructions and hidden them in the procedures for the next person. I went through the bottom drawer of the filing cabinet. Under current paperwork in the top drawer, the bottom held older material, yellowed registration cards, carbon copy invoices, insurance correspondence, and a thick stack of guest ledger sheets from before the motel computerized. Handwritten columns, date, name, room number, rate, payment, plate. Going back to 1994. Room 8 appeared regularly through 1997. Normal bookings, normal names, normal rates. In 1998, entries for Room 8 thinned. January, February, a few bookings. March, one entry. C. Orman, checked in March 9th. Rate $38, cash. Nevada plate, partially illegible. No checkout date. After that entry, Room 8 did not appear in the ledger again. Under the ledger sheets in the very back of the drawer, a manila folder with no label, 3 pages inside. The first was a photocopy of a county sheriff's incident report, dated March 14th, 1998. Portions were dark from poor copy quality. Others were redacted with black marker inconsistently. I could assemble the following. Welfare check requested at the Wayside Motor Lodge, Room 8, by the motel manager. Guest identified as Carl, redacted Orman, checked in March 9th, not seen since. Do not disturb placard on door continuously for 5 days. No response to housekeeping knocking. Manager entered with master key. Room found empty. Guests' belongings present. Suitcase, clothing, toiletry kit, wallet on nightstand containing $43 and a Nevada driver's license. Vehicle in the lot, a 1991 Ford Ranger. Television on. Bed slept in. Then a section about the bathroom, heavily redacted, from which I could make out bathroom door and closed, and what might have been from inside. Then a fully redacted line. Then, window secured from interior, deadbolt engaged, thumb turned position, chain not engaged, locked from the inside, guest gone, belongings still there, car still there. The second page was a letter from an insurance company, dated June 1998, addressed to Harold Peck at the Wayside. It approved a partial indemnification for permanent inventory reduction of 1 guest accommodation unit, pending remediation and containment measures, consistent with the policy's structural modification rider. Remediation, containment. The third page was a contractor's work order from Fallon, August 1998. Exterior infill certs, seal door and window opening, Unit 8, per owner instruction. Frame, sheath, lath, stucco, color match. Interior partition chur, seal interior access door, per separate specification. All work per attached drawing, not included. The drawing was not included. I found one more thing in the bottom of the drawer. A piece of yellow legal paper torn, folded twice, brittle at the creases, written in pencil, small and shaky. Do not open 8. Do not ask about 8. If the system shows 8, clear it and reprint. He was here before Dale. He. I closed the drawer. I finished my shift. I didn't mention any of this to Patrice. I went to room 20 and lay on the bed and stared at the textured ceiling and assembled a theory that accounted for everything rationally. Liability incident, sealed room, old pipes, dead phone extension, bad software. And the theory held together as long as I didn't look at any one piece too carefully. The insurance letter didn't read like a liability payout. It read like a hazard remediation. The work order didn't read like renovation. It read like containment. I slept badly. The next 3 shifts were quiet in a way that started to feel deliberate. No calls from guests, no noise complaints. The vacancy report printed clean every time. The phone didn't ring from any extension. I ran the audit, did my rounds, read my book, a normal night's. Then on my 14th shift, the phone rang at 2:22 a.m. I looked at the display. EXT108. The ring was wrong, not the electronic trill of other extensions, but something lower and less regular, like the signal was traveling through damaged wiring. A thick, warped tone. It rang 6 times. Then it stopped. I sat still. The display cleared. I looked at the taped over button for 108, dead from the desk side. But the extension was live somewhere in the system, generating inbound calls. I opened the shift binder and wrote, 2:22 a.m. Call from extension 108. Did not answer per standing instruction. 6 rings, disconnected. This is the extension assigned to room 8, which is sealed and not in inventory. Would like clarification on why this extension is still active. Patrice's response, next shift. Phone system is original. Extensions can't be individually deactivated without replacing the whole PBX. It's on the list. That afternoon, I looked up the phone model online. A Panasonic KXT series, partially worn model number. Individual extensions could be deactivated by removing the line card from the housing. It was not complicated. It did not require replacing the system. On my 16th shift, I printed the vacancy report at 10:15. Patrice had just left. I tore the page from the dot matrix and scanned the list. Between 7 and 9, room 8 occupied. Guest name Orman CD. Check-in date March 9th, 1998. I looked at the Innkeeper Pro screen. Room 8 was a green cell in a row that normally went 7, 9 with nothing between them. The system had generated a room that did not exist in its own configuration and populated it with a 21-year-old reservation. When I closed the reservation, the system threw an error. Cannot modify. Permanent folio. I went into the maintenance menu, a back-end screen I'd never accessed, and manually deleted the entry. Room 8 disappeared. The list went 7, 9. I printed a new report. Clean. I put the clean copy on top of the original. I sat down. I looked at the security monitors. West wing walkway, dim, grainy. I looked at the blank wall between 7 and 9. For 2 seconds, a thin line of light appeared at the base of the wall. Pale, yellowish, the color of an incandescent bulb behind a door. Then gone. I rewound the DVR and found the timestamp. The light was there. A horizontal line, maybe 2 feet wide, at floor level, exactly where the bottom of a door would be. Not a camera artifact, not a headlight. Wrong angle, no car. Over the next 10 days, I kept a record. Not in the shift binder, in a pocket-sized spiral notebook from the gas station. Extension 108 called 4 more times. Always between 2 and 3 a.m., always 6 rings. I didn't answer. On the 4th call, I picked up the handset after the ringing stopped and listened. The line was open. Under a faint ambient hiss, a rhythmic oscillation, 2 seconds in, 2 seconds out. I listened for 45 seconds. Then I hung up. The system showed room 8 as occupied twice more. Both times Orman CD, March 1998 check-in. Both times the permanent folio error. Both times I forced the deletion and reprinted. The second time I noticed the folio carried a balance. $38 per night times 7,854 nights. The system had been accruing charges on a non-existent room for a missing guest for 21 years, and I tracked the West Wing water meter daily, reading it during my 2 a.m. round. On 3 occasions, usage spiked between midnight and 4, 20 to 25 gallons, during hours when no occupied room on that wing was drawing water. I started checking the wall temperature between 7 and 9 with the back of my hand. For 6 nights, cool, ambient, same as surrounding stucco. On the 7th, warm, distinctly warm, not hot, the temperature of skin. I checked every 30 minutes. 2:10 a.m., warm. 2:40, warm. 3:10, warm. 3:45, warm. 4:15, cool. 2 hours of heat from a sealed room, then nothing. I found the maintenance logs in a third binder on the top shelf of the maintenance closet behind a case of light bulbs. Work orders going back to 2001. From 2003 in blocky capitals. Checked sealed unit per quarterly schedule. Exterior intact. Temp at shared wall. 78 degrees Fahrenheit / ambient. 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Differential consistent with Prev quarter. No deterioration. Filed. From 2005. Quarterly. Exterior intact. Diff 11 degrees Fahrenheit above ambient. Slight increase. Moisture at base of wall shared with 7. Source internal. Reported to new owner. Dale. From 2007. Quarter check. Nominal. Difference 14 degrees Fahrenheit. Plumbing drawing per meter. Electrical steady. Phone ext verified active. All per protocol. From 2011. Quarterly. Stable. Deviation. Spiked to 22 degrees Fahrenheit. Diff on March 9th. Returned baseline by March 11th. Coincides with annual date. Noted. March 9th. Check-in date. From 2014. Quarterly. Nominal. I'm done after this year. Recommended Dale find someone else. 16 years is enough. After 2014, Dale's handwriting. Shorter. Checked. Fine. Quarterly done. All good. One more thing in the maintenance binder. A loose page on old Wayside letterhead. Different logo, different format. Typed. October 1998. Addressed to all staff. Effective immediately, the following procedures are in place regarding the west wing of the property. 1. Room 8 has been permanently removed from guest inventory. Do not book, reference, or discuss this unit with guests. 2. Guests in rooms 6, 7, or 9 who report unusual noise should be offered immediate relocation to the east wing at no additional charge. Do not attempt to investigate or identify the source. 3. The telephone extension for room 8, extension 108, is to remain active. Calls received from this extension should not be answered. If accidentally answered, hang up immediately and do not engage. 4. The nightly vacancy report may intermittently display room 8 as occupied. If this occurs, clear the entry and reprint. Use the reprinted version for all records. Do not log the original or reference the discrepancy in shift notes. 5. The sealed unit is subject to quarterly maintenance inspection by authorized personnel only. Do not attempt to access the sealed unit for any reason. 6. Direct questions about room 8 to management. Do not discuss with staff, guests, contractors, or county officials. These procedures are conditions of employment. Signed by Harold Peck, the man who built the motel, who died in 2000, 2 years after the room was sealed. I folded the page and put it in my pocket. I called Dale that afternoon from room 20. He answered on the 3rd ring. I need to talk to you about room 8. 3 seconds of silence. What about it? I told him everything I'd found. The sheriff's report, And the insurance letter, the work order, the staff memo, the utility readings, the phone calls, the system anomalies, the maintenance logs, the temperature differentials, all of it. He said, "Stay there, 20 minutes. He was there in 15. He came into room 20 and closed the door and stood with his back to it and looked at me with the expression of a man who has been waiting for a specific conversation and is exhausted by the fact that it's happening again. "You're the fourth night auditor to get this far," he said. "The first lasted 2 months and quit. Left a letter in the binder that Patrice shredded. The second lasted 3 weeks and called the sheriff. Deputy came out, I showed him the records. He said, nothing actionable. The third stayed almost 4 months. She wrote the note on the yellow paper. She asked to move to days. Worked 6 weeks, moved to Fallon, moved out of state. What's in room 8, Dale? I don't know. He sat on the edge of the dresser. I have never been inside that room. It was sealed before I bought the property. Sealed when I was manager under Harold. Harold sealed it. Harold wrote the procedures. Harold set up the checks. He died. His estate sold to a holding company. The holding company sold to me, and with every transfer, the same terms carried forward. I'm obligated. Legally, it's in the deed. Obligated to do what? Keep the room sealed, utilities connected, phone line active, quarterly inspections of the exterior, temperature monitoring, staff procedures followed. Do not open, enter, or allow anyone else to open or enter. And if you don't, I lose the property. It transfers automatically to a trust. No hearing, no appeal. Reversionary interest with a condition subsequent. I had a lawyer explain it. He said unusual but enforceable. What trust? He looked past my shoulder. The Orman Family Trust. I let that settle. I tried to contact them once, he said. 6 years ago. Temperature differentials were getting wider. I wanted to bring in an engineer. Called the law firm that manages the trust. In Las Vegas, they sent a 3-sentence letter. Request denied. Terms do not permit third-party access. Any attempt to breach the sealed unit would constitute a violation. He stood up, hands in pockets. You can keep working here. You're good at it. Patrice says you're the best night person we've had. But if you pursue this, pull at the structure, call the sheriff, contact the trust, I'll let you go. Not because I want to, because the covenant requires me to protect the sealed unit, and an employee investigating it is a liability. He left. I sat in room 20 for a long time and did the math. $1,100 saved. Not enough for the transmission, not enough for Reno. 3 more weeks minimum. I decided to keep working and stop investigating. This lasted 4 days. On the 4th night, a Tuesday, the phone rang at 2:11 a.m. XT108, 6 rings. I didn't answer. It rang again. XT108, 6 rings. Again, 6 more, a 4th time. And I picked up. Fatigue or accumulation, or the simple fact that a phone was ringing from inside a wall and I was alone, and the human response to a ringing phone is to answer it. Front desk. Open line. Hiss. The breathing closer now than before. In, out. In, out. Slow and measured, like deep sleep. And then a sound that was not breathing. A faint scraping, like a fingernail on a surface. And then a vocalization. A single, sustained, low tone that rose, slightly at the end. The shape of a syllable from someone who had forgotten the mechanics of speech. 3 seconds. Then the line went dead. I put the handset down. I sat very still. Then I locked the office, hung the back in 15 minutes sign, and walked to the back of the building. I'd noticed, on earlier rounds, a seam in the stucco on the rear wall behind the room 8 area, about 3 feet wide and 4 feet tall, where the patch was thinner than the front, the texture not matching. A job done for function, not appearance, because no one looked at the back of the building. I took the pry bar and cordless drill from my car. When I started with the crawl space hatch, near the foundation of 4 screws, plywood away, I crawled in. 3 feet of clearance, dirt floor, pipes, wiring, concrete piers. I counted joist bays to the 8th. The PVC drain line from above was sweating. Small beads of condensation. Water had moved through it recently. The copper supply lines were warm. Warmer than the identical pipes under adjacent rooms. Zip-tied to a joist directly beneath room 8. A temperature data logger. Gray plastic housing. Single green LED blinking at a slow interval. 2 thin wires running up through a drilled hole in the subfloor. Blink, blink, blink. I backed out, replaced the hatch, stood up, looked at the higher seam. The pry bar went into the stucco. It cracked easier than I expected. 1/2 inch of material over plywood. 6 screws in the plywood, and I removed them. Behind the panel, a rough-framed opening maybe 3 feet wide and 4 feet tall. Beyond it, past cutaway insulation, the room. The smell came first. Warm, dry, faintly sweet. Not decay, something like heated cotton or the inside of a running dryer. Not unpleasant. Not right. The opening was at an awkward angle, behind what I think was the closet partition, giving me a partial view. Maybe half the room. The bed was visible, the nightstand, part of the dresser. The bathroom door was around the corner of the partition, outside my sight line. Faint, yellowish light filled the space. On the dresser, the television was on. Static, gray-white snow, no signal. The screen cast a flickering glow that made the edges of the room shift and swim. In that light, then everything had a quality of motion that might have been real or might have been the static playing on surfaces. The bed was made. Old patterned polyester bedspread, brown and orange, a style the wayside hadn't used in years. The carpet was the same brown weave, a framed desert print above the headboard. On the nightstand, a wallet, car keys, a glass of water. The glass was full, clear, condensation on the outside. I could not see the far wall clearly. The static light and my angle conspired to dissolve the back of the room into a kind of grain, shapes suggesting furniture or suggesting nothing. The suitcase was on the luggage rack near the closet, I thought, but the light was unreliable and the opening was small, and I was looking through it from 3 feet away on my knees. At the bathroom door, I could just see the edge of its frame at the limit of my sight line. It appeared to be closed. From behind it, from the part of the room I could not see at all, the sound of a faucet turning. Old pipes pressurizing, water running. I looked at the pillow on the bed. There was an indentation in it, the kind left by a head, and in the seconds I was looking, in the flickering light from the dead television, the indentation changed. It deepened, slowly, the fabric compressing as if weight were being applied from above. I pulled back from the opening. I stood behind the building. I could hear the water still running inside room 8. I breathed cold desert air. I replaced the plywood, drove the screws, pressed the broken stucco back against the panel. It was a poor repair. I went inside, finished my shift. At 6, Patrice arrived. I told her I was quitting. She stopped with her jacket half on, then she finished hanging it. When? Now. You open the back panel. Not a question. The stucco on the back wall has been patched 3 times, she said. Once by Harold, once by Dale, once by the night girl, before the one before you. She lasted 4 months, opened it her 3rd month, quit the next week. She reached into her purse, a white envelope. $600 cash, mine, not the motel's. Take it and get your car fixed and go to Reno. Patrice, the people who look into room 8 need to leave. Not because Dale says so, because staying changes you. The night girl told me she'd started hearing the breathing when she wasn't at work. In her apartment, in her car, when she was falling asleep. She put the envelope on the counter. And take the money, Marcus. I took the money, drove to Fallon, got the transmission fixed, $1,320, which the $600 in my savings just barely covered. 3 days in the repair shop lot. Then Reno, the distribution center job. 14 months there, then Boise. I have an apartment, a routine. My life is normal in the ways that matter. I still have Harold Peck's staff memo in my desk drawer. I've read it so many times the creases are wearing through. These procedures are conditions of employment. I've thought about sending it to someone, a journalist, the sheriff. But what would they find? A sealed wall, a covenant on a deed, a law firm that doesn't return calls. Some nights, when I'm lying in bed in Boise, I hear the phone. Not my phone. The wayside front desk phone. The warped ring. 6 rings. A pause. 6 more. I hear it in the walls or in the pipes or in the specific frequency of silence that a building produces at 2 a.m. And sometimes, after the ringing stops, the breathing. In, out, in, out. I looked up the Wayside last month. That's what started this. A real estate listing. New owner. The description said 22-unit motor lodge on 1.3 acres. Renovation potential, stable regional traffic. 22 units. The listing said 22. Last Tuesday at 2:11 in the morning, my phone rang. My actual phone. The one on my nightstand. I picked up without thinking. Nevada area code. A number I didn't recognize. Open line. Hiss. Breathing. Then the voice. The same shape. A syllable. Forced out with effort. The sound of a mouth that hadn't been used in a very long time. 2 syllables. Low and dry and cracking on the second one. It might have been my name, I don't know. I've listened to the memory of it so many times that I can't tell anymore whether the sound matched the word or whether I've bent the memory to fit. 11 seconds, the call log says. Nevada area code. The number is still in my phone. I haven't called it back. I haven't deleted it. I searched the number online. One database listed it as a landline registered in Dresser, Nevada. No name. Somewhere tonight there's a night auditor sitting behind that counter. They're going to hear the phone ring, and they're going to look at the display, and it's going to say EXT108, and they're going to have to decide. I hope they read the binder first. I hope someone left them a note